Good morning. It's Friday, October 3rd, 2025. I'm meteorologist Andrew Pritchard taking a look at your Canadian Prairie weather story, recapping a dry last 10 days in most corners of the prairie, but we have some opportunities for corridors of rain over the next 1 to 2 weeks. Not going to be a soaker, but there will be some moisture getting kind of squeezed across the region here. We'll talk about what that looks like and who's going to be seeing a lot, who's most likely to stay dry. Big temperature swings over the next 2 weeks, seasonally appropriate. We've got some cooler air in place across corners of the prairie. Heading into the weekend, some warmth expanding early next week, but continuous shots of cooler air here as we kind of ebb and flow here between late summer heat and early fall chills. So we'll take a look then at the 10-day precipitation totals here, looking back over the previous 10 days. So kind of recapping the last week of September. First few days of October, some moisture in the Grand Prairie Peace River area. Very light moisture over there toward the corridor here north of Highway 16 in Alberta, north of Edmonton even, north of Saskatoon as well. Along and south of Highway 16, pretty much completely dry over the last 10 days, save for a couple areas that have saw maybe a trace to a couple of hundredths far southeastern Manitoba, a bit of moisture in that area as well. Now, as we look at the satellite picture here on Friday morning, this is kind of what I mean. We've got this big ridge kind of persistently spinning over the central United States, which has kept it pretty dry all the way from the prairie down into the Corn Belt here. But now, as we head through the next 1 to 2 weeks, we're going to start to bring some systems in, kind of squeezing them down here across the Pacific coast, also kind of potentially tapping into some Pacific disturbances here, potentially, even flinging a hurricane remnant or a tropical system remnant here. I'm going to get way ahead of myself, but kind of just squeezing systems between this ridge here over the central United States and then ridging here across the Pacific, and such that we kind of squeeze in some moisture at times across the prairie portions of the western U.S. into the northern plains. And so this is what that looks like here Friday morning, again, October 3rd. Looking at the radar, just some light rain here across far southern portions of Alberta, getting into southwestern Saskatchewan. Scattered showers continue across the rest of Saskatchewan into southern portions of Manitoba. Not a soaker, but there is some moisture here kind of making its way through, and that'll get heavier over the next couple of days across southern portions of Manitoba primarily. We'll look at the NAM model here. This will take us through the weekend. Let me go ahead and bring it back. We'll kind of step through this one incrementally. Heading through our Friday, rain mostly focused near and south of Highway 1. We'll take it into our Friday night and then our Saturday. It's really as we get into Sunday that the rain becomes a bit heavier across southern and southeastern portions of the prairie. But we get this system, couple upper level disturbances kind of phasing together here through the middle and later part of the weekend. So this is your Saturday night. This is your Sunday morning. The rain is now heavy in the Winnipeg area, portions of southern Manitoba. Showers and storms continue across portions of the northern plains as well. Some snow across the higher elevations, the higher terrain in south and western portions of Alberta. Maybe some flurries here across the higher terrain, the foothills, but much of the snow falling across the higher elevations there in the Rockies. But starting to see some of that blue on the precipitation type forecast, certainly as we start to do the seasonal transitions, and then the potential maybe even some snowflakes, some very light snow flurries in the Highway 16 corridor as we get into Monday with some cooler air in place. This is not, of course, an accumulating snow event, but again, as we get some of these fronts to sweep through, we're starting to get to that time of the year. We're going to start to see some snowflakes mixing in with some of that trailing moisture behind the fronts. What I want to do now is take a look at the European model over essentially the same time frame. Just show you some of the agreement here. This is the first initial wave of showers, just fairly light in nature, sneaking from southern Alberta and southwestern Saskatchewan this morning into the rest of southern Saskatchewan and southern Manitoba as we head through the rest of the day today into tonight. Not a soaking rain. The heavier precipitation comes here Saturday night into Sunday. This is your Sunday now getting into Monday. This area of low pressure pulls away. We get cooler air on the backside. Monday, this is when we get those very, very light showers on the backside. Maybe some snow flurries near Highway 16 across, central portions of Saskatchewan and Manitoba. And this is your now Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of next week. We get into kind of Tuesday and Wednesday. Here's a weak area of low pressure moving through. Another chance for some light moisture across the region. Not a lot as we get into next week in the way of heavy precipitation. We'll talk about when I think it is that the next chance for some heavier precipitation is going to be, and kind of teasy here, it's going to be next weekend, October 11th, 12th, and 13th. Low confidence in that, though. Let's look at the temperatures here. Friday morning, certainly cooler behind the front. It's making its way slowly across the region. From Calgary up to Edmonton to Grand Prairie, temperatures near or a couple degrees above or below freezing. You make your way all the way over to Winnipeg, portions of southern Manitoba. We're talking about temperatures 15, 16, 17 degrees. So a big contrast across the prairie as we start to see some faster jet stream flow, bringing in some of these early season fronts across the region. So here's the jet stream across, here's the Pacific Ocean. This is North America. Here's the prairie. This is the trough right now that's kind of moving through, bringing that light moisture. And you look at how kind of bunched up, how wavy this is. If we're going to talk about a really active pattern, bringing in robust storm systems, heavy precipitation rolling across North America, we would look for a consolidated jet stream kind of just blasting from west to east. When we get this blocked up kind of bunchy flow here, where it's weak in nature in some areas, the stronger flow is very what we call meridional. It's very wavy. Patterns prone to getting stuck, and we just continue to kind of wait and watch for something to break this pattern up across the Pacific Ocean to give us some meaningful change across North America as we head through mid and late October. And again, we continue to kind of just wait as the pattern reloads here with this ridge that spins across the U.S. At times, we're bringing troughs down into the Pacific, but they're not setting up permanently. You kind of see it here at the end of the loop, and I'll pause it as we get to this period. Kind of a highly uncertain, time frame in the forecast here, where things kind of go a couple different ways. Where we get this high over low block, you see this very wavy flow here. This is not good for predictability. This is not good for meaningful pattern change across the region. Again, you can kind of see the flow coming down, but just kind of hitting this ridge and almost kind of breaking in half. You kind of pinch off a trough here. You get another one that kind of progresses here across the Hudson Bay. And so instead of getting, a big trough to, this looks good initially. This is Saturday into Sunday, and the European model does, to its credit, bring in a pretty good round of precipitation. It kind of whiffs on portions of the prairie, but the European model is just one solution here, and I'll show you this side by side between the European and the GFS, and there's big contrast, big differences in how things evolve past this time frame, but we kind of just get right back to this high, this ridge here across the western and central United States, troughs that kind of slide down here into the Gulf of Alaska, but kind of struggle then to eject, and by that I mean come in across British Columbia, the western U.S., and then track from west to east across the region. We just kind of continue to keep the flow here very bunched up, very wavy, and very chaotic, and that's tough to predict, and it's tough to get a really confident signal out of. So as we look at the 15-day precipitation anomaly forecast, it looks good. You see some green in here across the prairie, near average or a little wetter. You see that corridor across eastern Manitoba into western Ontario, where we get heavy precipitation Saturday, Sunday into Monday in that kind of days 3 to 5 time frame. But as we really dive into it, looking at the European ensemble probabilities over the next 10 days, this is the probability of picking up more than half an inch of rainfall over the next 10 days. And we're talking about 30 to 40% across the bulk of the prairie, except where I keep mentioning southern Manitoba. You're going to get some heavy rain here this weekend. And then in the higher terrain, where we're going to get some, heavier precipitation kind of squeezed in across the Rockies. But, Peace River, Grand Prairie, you'll continue to kind of squeeze some moisture out of this pattern as it focuses on British Columbia. But a lot of terrain here across the Canadian prairie is going to be, struggling to pick up heavy precipitation. And, that's probably not the worst thing in the world, as we kind of, dance between wrapping up harvest and kind of wanting to get some precipitation worked in here as far as, drought concerns and fire weather concerns. We will be dealing with some blustery winds at times. And so as the ground dries out between rain events, we'll have to kind of watch that fire weather risk kind of day to day. But here's your probability of 1 inch or more over the next 10 days. And we're near zero across much of the prairie, except those same corridors, Peace River, Grand Prairie, southeastern Manitoba. You're the ones who are going to get soaked. Everyone else in between that, you got opportunities for showers between now and October 12th, but heavy rain, not something I can promise. So we'll tie all this together. We'll look at the European model, the precipitation forecast then over the next 14 days. We've got a wide view here, and we've talked about the next few days really verbatim is not the one, the word that I'm looking for. We've talked about it a lot, so we can kind of skip through here. We're looking at our Friday night into Saturday. We see the big moisture here Sunday into Monday that goes through southern Manitoba into western portions of Ontario. Got that shot of cooler air on the backside, maybe some showers before high pressure and warmer temperatures kind of build into the area. You see this area of low pressure with southerly flow in advance of it. So as we get into early next week, we'll look for those temperatures to rebound. Mild conditions, seasonally mild for mid-October, across the region. And then we kind of wait. We watch a mostly dry week with really chaotic high over low, bunched up flow off to our west along the border of the Pacific Ocean and western North America. And then the European model, it tries here. As we get into next weekend, October 11th, 12th, 13th, you see a bigger area of low pressure here. You see kind of two here. And this is the European model trying to phase together some bigger components here and try to work in a more organized storm system that can kind of organize the moisture and bring a swath or two of that into portions of the prairie and the northern plains, some corridors that we would really like to see that happen. And then on the backside, another shot of cooler air, maybe some lighter showers and some flurry activity. So, if I'm in the prairie and I'm looking for heavy moisture, I'm kind of looking out into the next weekend time frame, October 11th, 12th, and 13th. But am I saying it's a sure thing? I absolutely am not. We've got the European on the left. We've got the GFS on the right. I mentioned this is on the back side of kind of a mid to late next week. I want to call it kind of a saddle point in the forecast where we've got a lot of moving parts and in not a really favorable look where, again, I mentioned we don't have a big push in the Pacific jet stream. It's just kind of, are these kind of meandering pieces going to phase together and kind of manifest a bigger storm system for us here? And the European model is kind of flirted with that idea, and the GFS has really struggled to grasp it. So the European, showing this bigger area of low pressure as we look at both of these animations here, both these snapshots are focused on the Sunday evening, October 12th time frame in the forecast 10 days from now. Again, the European on the left, big area of low pressure, the GFS on the right, high pressure, lack of a storm system at all. And really this comes down to this pattern across the Pacific Ocean, very wavy, very chaotic. And so as we look at next Friday, this is October 10th now, the jet stream across the Pacific Ocean, North America is on the right side of each of these. And you just see the very wavy, essentially an S shape in the jet stream there. On the left there with the European, the GFS on the right side, a bit of a different look there. And that's all it comes down to. We get a different look. We're going to have a different evolution. And so we've got the European saying rainy. We got the GFS saying, I can't make it happen. Sorry, guys. So as we animate the precipitation total forecast from the European model, which has performed a bit better, so we'll kind of lean that direction right now. And as I just let it run through the early part of next week, here's your corridor of heavy moisture. We're going to be talking about an inch or more across southeastern Manitoba into western portions of Ontario. Dry in many other corridors, essentially less than 5 to 7 millimeters just about everywhere else. And then as I play this out through next week, again, not much. The jet stream is very chaotic, very disorganized as we head through the bulk of next week. And then it's next weekend is the next opportunity to bring in some heavier precipitation. But I mean, look at this. This is the next 15 days from the European model. And this is the one that phases those little pieces together to bring in a bigger area of low pressure. But still, again, we're kind of, it's a backdoor cover type situation. And so as you look at, in a nearly a best case scenario forecast from the European model, we're not talking about a heavy swath of precipitation where everyone gets dumped on. I mean, just a lot of terrain here that's still on the back side of this, talking about 12 to 15 millimeters of precipitation over the next 15 days. So as we just kind of look at this all together, there are opportunities for rain, but it's, hinging on some stuff 10 to 12 days out into the forecast period. And it's not one that I have a whole lot of faith in. So you got what you got this weekend. The bigger winners are going to be Grand Prairie, Peace River, and then all the way on the east side, southern and eastern portions of Manitoba into western Ontario. Everyone else, not a lot of rain to really bank on until we get to potentially the end of next week. So as we animate temperatures here, there will be some activity with the temperatures, some fluctuations here at times. And as we do that, bringing in some cooler temperatures, we'll be talking about frost across the prairie as well. I was asked last week in the comment section if there's such a thing as a frost map for the Canadian prairies. And, we can get pretty close here. Frost is a really tough thing to forecast with certainty as we talk about some highly variable components that go into it. I'm talking about sky cover, wind speed, terrain, moisture content within the atmosphere here, relative humidity. So we can talk about the probability, though, certainly, of those temperatures getting below freezing, below 0 degrees Celsius or below 32 degrees Fahrenheit here. And as I run it through the next couple of days, this is your I'm talking about Sunday morning. On the backside of this system here, portions of Alberta will certainly be talking about some frost potential. This is as we look at Monday morning, so not a lot across the prairie. We get that kind of reinforcing shot of cooler air that comes in kind of Tuesday morning. Portions of the Saskatoon, Friday morning, I'm really just, running on fumes at this point. Saskatchewan and Manitoba border, we got a chance for some frost here as we get into Tuesday morning. October 7th, let's take it into Wednesday, October 8th. Now we're starting to build some warmth back in across the region. So mild as we get into mid to late next week. And then it would be, maybe over the weekend if we're able to organize something more substantial, a bigger area of low pressure here. We could tug some cooler air south, potentially talking about, sub-freezing temperatures on the other side of the system. Again, 13 days from now into the forecast. So as we look at those temperatures over the next 10 days, Calgary, again, potentially getting below freezing as we wake up on Sunday morning, but rebounding into early next week. Edmonton, very similar, down to a -4 potentially, give or take there on Sunday morning. Saskatoon, the cooler temperatures are a couple days delayed there. Monday, Tuesday would be the chance for some sub-freezing temperatures and some frost before things rebound Wednesday into Thursday. Same thing here in Regina. And then Winnipeg, oh, look at that. I did not quite do a great paced job there with the updated graphic. Picture in a picture, kind of. The cooler day here forecast for you in Manitoba, though. The Winnipeg area is specifically going to be Tuesday morning, potentially talking about temperatures getting close to the freezing mark. So that's what I've got for you here. Spent a lot of time talking about some very nuanced rainfall opportunities. Probably a dry week for a lot of you in the Canadian Prairie watching me, with those temperatures fluctuating, seasonal temperature fluctuations here. Very appropriate for mid-October. I'll get back with you guys next Friday. That's going to be October the 10th. Have a wonderful weekend.